have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
I'm Andy Hum.
I'm Ann Northrup.
And what a week it's been.
Oh my God.
I feel like I need a shower every 5 minutes. Here are the headlines from the past week. Donald Trump in the debate was unable to show true contrition for being a sexual predator, but the religious right is standing by him.
They are his strongest supporters. We'll give you a list. On the other side, 12 LGBT media outlets have united to endorse Hillary Clinton in a first for them.
Some dark clouds on the horizon. Massachusetts is now going to have a referendum in 2018 to rescind transgender rights. This is something brought, of course, by the right wing.
Men convicted of sodomy in Mississippi are suing to get off the sex offender registry.
Because anti-sodomy laws are unconstitutional. A new study from the U.S. Department of the Interior and the Park Service chronicles historical places, documents, people, and events that shaped the LGBTQ civil rights movement in America.
You may have read about the failed attempt to reach a peace agreement in Colombia or to pass it in a public referendum. But did you know that one of the reasons for that no vote by the people of Colombia was because of LGBT rights issues?
And LGBT inclusion was blocked once again at the United Nations.
The Gay Gotham exhibit has opened at the Museum of the City of New York, and Andy has attended and will tell us about it.
And the big New York City LGBT Film Festival, New Fest, gets started next week.
We'll tell you about some of the highlights to expect.
But first, we're going to engage in some locker room talk.
Well,
first, what did you use for your second shot on the 16th hole? And what are you doing in the men's locker room?
First, I can't believe all this happened just in the last few days. And, it wasn't included in last week's show. And here it is next week's show. And we have to talk about it. And it feels like it was 100 years ago at this point.
And 10 more things will happen after we tape.
Exactly. And you'll look at our show this week and say, why are you so behind on that? Nonetheless, Friday night, we were shocked, I was shocked anyway, to see this tape. Not shocked because I have any higher expectations of either Donald Trump or Billy Bush, but just, it's so crude. It's so crude.
It's so crude, and yet, for the first time, the New York Times used the F word on their front page in quoting the Republican candidate for president.
And the P word. It's all right here in the lead story in the New York Times the next day.
They used to use Pussy Riot, but they wouldn't use cock.
But not in this context. It was just, and I actually talked to a friend who's a top PR guy who said, they had to. The Washington Post had the story. They had to have something, so they used the full language in their lead story. Whatever. It was, you straight people. You straight people.
Well,
what are you doing?
There are gay men like this too. But I do want to say, after everybody's saying, especially the Republican side, oh, this is just locker room talk. Everybody talks this way. No, when I was growing up, my father was an athlete. Was in the golf course with people could be swear and things like that. I never heard language like this. I never heard men talking like this ever in my family. Or in the sporting environments that I was in.
I don't doubt that men talk like this about women. Have you seen rap videos? I thought the best analysis and reaction came from Anna Marie Cox on, I guess it was MSNBC, since that's what I tend to watch. And she said, how dare they? How dare these hypocrites suddenly get offended by this? Republican men have been screwing over millions of women for their entire lifetime, decades, centuries, laws against reproductive rights, rape nonstop.
And it's an outrage that they're acting offended on behalf of their daughters and their wives when they should be offended on their own behalf and completely distancing themselves from this monster that's running for president.
The real question, of course, is what
that would be Trump.
What will this do to his campaign? He has come back time and time and time again from saying horrible things, doing horrible things. And when I saw him in the debate, and he was so aggressive, and so, there wasn't any shame, there wasn't any contrition. It was all attack, attack, attack. And he was a big attacker.
He had one job, though, that night. Everybody was waiting. How is he going to say? What is he going to say? And he didn't even try to sincerely apologize. Most politicians know how to do that.
It's against his brand.
Right. So whatever else he said afterwards, and everybody says, oh, he did very well against Hillary in the debate. People were waiting for that and that only, and it didn't happen. And if that doesn't happen, he can't move the needle off his diehard base.
Well, what he did was attack Bill and Hillary, and certainly they are guilty of their own sins. I thought when he showed up at the pre-debate press conference at a setting that looked like the plywood basements that Lou Milletta's Calvin Klein ads were shot in, inside reference, I guess.
How could we forget them?
But, there were those women trotted out, and I thought, oh, my God, this guy just tops himself every day. But really, the people who are standing by him, number one being these evangelicals, who came out and supported him? Ralph Reed, Tony Perkins, James Dobson, right down the line, Jerry Falwell Jr.
They're all about and
power.
P.S. Why? Oh, they are sincere in wanting to end abortion rights in this country.
And LGBT rights.
Yes, they want all these religious freedom laws. They want, and they mention they want to overturn the Iran nuclear deal as well. So that's what they're focused on. And
just as we are focused on issues and have our own arguments.
We're focused on some of the same issues. We just want the other result.
Side. But I have said endlessly on this show this year that I'm not happy with either of the candidates. We have many complaints about and fears about Hillary Clinton, but we will support our view of the issues, and they're supporting their view of the issues. I actually thought another horribly offensive thing that Trump said that has only rarely been mentioned in the midst of all this is his continuing doubling down in defense of his verdict that the Central Park Five were guilty. Totally exonerated on DNA
This was a group
evidence.
of young African-American males who were wrongly convicted, imprisoned, most of them for the full terms, and then ultimately exonerated.
Of raping a young
because they
woman
didn't rape her.
in Central Park.
Somebody else did.
Yeah, someone else who was caught, convicted, found the DNA evidence.
And at the time, Trump took out a full-page ad in the Times saying, hang these animals, basically, is what that was the essence of it. I'm not quoting it exactly.
It was calling for the death penalty for these guys.
And he's just interviewed about it this week and says they should have been executed.
Yes. But he still believes they were guilty.
This is the fear. Look, if it wasn't evident to you in the way he went after Mrs. Clinton and said, "You're going to be in jail when I'm president. I'm going to have you locked up." This is all beyond the pale. It's been beyond the pale from the very beginning.
Well, I think if the election were held today, she would win.
Well, it is being held today. People are voting right now. And some of you still have the opportunity to register to vote in your states. You got a few more days. Some of you, the deadline is passed. But check it out. Google it, and find out if you can still register to vote. And not just for President of the United States, even though that's all that seems to be on television. There are many, many other races for Congress and for the Senate.
I have a shocking little story
and state legislatures.
A friend of mine who you know but who will go unnamed on this show said to me yesterday, we were discussing voting for some reason, and she was talking about someone else and saying, well, he told me he had changed his registration so he could vote for Hillary. I said, what are you talking about? She said, well, he was a registered Republican, but he changed to independent so he could vote for Hillary. I said, oh, what do you mean? You can vote for anyone. She said, well, first of all, you have to vote in the primary or you can't vote for president. I said, what? What kind of moron are you?
I mean, for all, look, 24/7, these cable news stations are just covering the election, and people are this ignorant of.
This is an educated person. And when I tell you off camera who it is, you'll be shocked. But she, honest to God, believes that if she didn't vote in the primary, she couldn't vote for president.
Because they're not paying attention.
And I haven't.
You know, if you don't vote, you're just giving more power to us.
I haven't double checked it yet, but I suspect she thinks that she must vote in the presidential election for whoever she voted for in the primary.
Well, I will say, you used to have to vote every 4 years or so, or they would drop you from the rolls.
Yes.
I don't know if they do that. I don't think they do that anymore. I'm uneducated. But, well, there's a purging of vote. And also check to make sure your registration is still there.
Every time I think I have not overestimated the knowledge of the populace, I am shocked
Let
again.
me prepare you with something else.
Yes.
You are entitled, if you go there and they say, oh, we don't have you down, fill out an affidavit ballot and fill it out and put that in. It's a paper ballot that they will give you, and then they'll try to see what happened to your registration.
Yes, exactly. Whew. Well,
let's talk about about the issues.
Wait,
you want to stay on
I got a few more points to make.
Okay.
First of all, terrified as I am by all of this, I don't think the election is going to solve anything in terms of issues and the fight, the civil war that is breaking out in this country between the right and the left. People are in for a pitched battle, and people. You thought the last 8 years were bad between Obama and Congress. That's the appetizer. Right. It's going to get worse.
Well, the Civil War, the real one in 1861, did not end. It just didn't end.
Yeah.
And we haven't learned how to get along in this country with each other. And then they're just two distinctly different worldviews. Maybe it's time for a divorce. I know people get offended when I say that sometimes, but Czechoslovakia did it.
Well, let's not. Now you're sounding like the woman in the Pence audience who says she's ready for a revolution.
And I'm suggesting that are we going to continue to look how awful everybody feels right now.
Exactly.
About the whole thing.
It is gridlock.
Right. So if this country has become ungovernable, if they are two distinctly worldviews, we may have to devolve into smaller units. Britain is doing it, for better or for worse. They're doing it. They're separating themselves from Europe. They may be Scotland may be breaking off again. All these things can happen. It's not the end of the world, and maybe people will be happier in smaller units.
I've often said I'll take everything west of the Mississippi. I want the Rocky Mountains.
You want the Rockies. Well, we can fight over that.
All right. Well, speaking of Pence, he told James Dobson in an interview that the Trump-Pence administration will cancel the Obama administration's transgender student guidance.
Washington has no business intruding on the operation of local schools. So it's outrageous. But they're very clear on their anti-LGBT positions.
Well, LGBT moments in the debate. Trump cited the Orlando massacre.
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton cited marriage equality.
In terms of the Supreme Court.
Yes. Richard Bone.
This impressed Ken Bone.
Ken Bone, thank you. In the red sweater.
The big guy in the red sweater.
Yes. Well, he's torn because he works in the coal industry, but he supports marriage equality.
Right.
LGBT media outlets, about a dozen of them.
12.
That would be a dozen. Banded together to endorse Hillary Clinton.
Including some papers like the Windy City Times, which has endorsed just once in 16 years.
Look,
and the Dallas Voice, which has never endorsed a candidate.
Utah newspapers are endorsing Hillary Clinton.
We're not allowed to endorse on this show, but I think you can figure out how we feel.
Bruce Springsteen said the Republic is under siege by a moron. But he also pointed out
How about that? How about Robert De Niro? You're a punk, you're a mug, you're a mug, you're a... It's a hell of a take.
Oh, yes,
about Trump. Oh,
yeah.
my God.
But
colorful.
Springsteen also pointed out that one of the reasons we're in this mess and that Trump has the support he has is because we have not addressed the fallout from globalization and deindustrialization.
Yes, I keep hearing this from white people. Wait a minute, hold it. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
No, I'm saying, yes, of course, it's a true thing. And then, yes, white people have been displaced from our perch, and there have been, I'm not minimizing that and that. But look what African Americans have had to go through in this country continuously, and you don't see them voting for Trump.
I don't think that, I wasn't making
that's
that kind of analysis.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yes, it's the aggrieved white masses that.
No, I think it's the world coming to an end. I think it is.
All right. Now, thank you for watching. We're going to go home and be with our families while we figure this out.
All right. Well, meanwhile, though, we are looking at a little peril in Massachusetts where the right wing has put together enough citizen signatures to force a vote in 2018 to consider repealing the gender identity and expression non-discrimination law that the legislature passed.
They only needed like 32,000 signatures to get it on the ballot.
1%, I think.
I mean, I'm very much against. I know in California you have to put up with it all the time.
Yeah.
But and beware, 2018 is an off-year election, so fewer of our side is going to be likely to be out.
Also in Massachusetts, 4 churches have enlisted the Alliance Defending Freedom, the right-wing legal group, to sue the state for religious exemptions from that law and any other law that offends them.
Well, North Carolina's been in the news a lot because of the hurricane, and Governor McCrory took time out from saving the state from Hurricane Matthew to talk to anti-LGBTQ pastors while the hurricane is bearing down on North Carolina. And then he talked about how much he feels shunned at social events, he and the wife, about because of his principled stand. And his business leaders are saying, we love you, but we can't stand with you anymore. How about taking some personal responsibility?
No.
Governor McCrory.
No, because he believes he's standing up for the right thing.
But I will say he is building up the power of the Human Rights Campaign because he says this is the group that has ruined me and ruined our state with their actions. We've never felt that they're particularly powerful because we don't even have a federal LGBT rights law in this country.
Which, of course, was not asked about at the debate. And I think it would be nice if someone turned to Donald Trump and said, we've been trying to get an answer out of you for months. What is your position on the Equality Act?
Yeah, I'm going to protect you from ISIS.
Should there be
his answer.
No, his answer will be it should be a state-by-state decision.
Well, he has said that already. And
well,
he has said
yes,
that.
But he hasn't specifically said anything about the Equality Act, and I want him confronted about that.
All right.
I am also interested in how the hurricane is going to affect the North Carolina vote. Roy Cooper, the Attorney General, seems to be ahead in the race for governor right now to replace McCrory.
Maybe he should do an ad saying the governor took $500,000 of disaster relief funds a couple of months ago and put it into the defense of HB2, which is destroying the state. Yes. Where do you think they got the money to defend the suit? They diverted the funds.
Excellent. Yeah.
That's a nice ad if you haven't thought of it about it.
I like that. All right, shall we move to Mississippi?
Yes, this is one of my favorite stories of the week, and I didn't realize that this was a problem. But if you were convicted of sodomy, and there were thousands of people who were, they put you on the sex offender registry in Mississippi, even though the law, the anti-sodomy law, is unconstitutional. So
overturned by the United States Supreme Court in Lawrence v. Texas in
2003. Could be reinstated under a Trump court, of course. He has some judges who would like to do that. They could, and again, that's something that they're allowed to do. Same thing on marriage.
Well, Lawrence v. Texas overturned a previous decision, so yes, they could go back to that.
2 more conservative justices, Anthony Kennedy off the court, and they can say the states have the right to ban same-sex marriage. The federal government has the right to ban not recognize same-sex marriages from states if they would like to do that. These things are not forever. Everybody says, oh, that would never happen.
Yeah, you thought Donald Trump would never be nominated. That'll never happen.
That is true. I think I was in the vast majority on that opinion, and we were all wrong. You were the one who said he could.
I saw that storm coming. All right, so 5 guys in Mississippi have sued to get off the sex offender registry, as well they should.
Yes.
In Georgia, the Attorney General of that state, Sam Olens, is expected to be appointed the new president of Kennesaw State University, and he is so anti-LGBT that this has provoked enormous petition gathering and big demonstrations there in Georgia, but his appointment seems imminent.
Okay.
We'll keep an eye on that.
Lambda is successful in getting the full 7th Circuit in Indiana, in the Indiana employment discrimination case brought by Kimberly Hively, who was a lesbian who was discriminated against there. So the whole panel there in the 7th Circuit is going to hear her case. She was terminated because she was a lesbian. She
worked at Ivy Tech Community College. She was fired for being a lesbian. She sued. She lost at the trial court level. She appealed to the 7th Circuit, to the original 3-judge panel. They turned down hearing the appeal. But now the full 7th Circuit has agreed en banc to hear the appeal. It's all about whether, this is the continuing discussion of the last few years, of whether the Civil Rights Act Title VII, which forbids sex discrimination, includes, therefore, discrimination based on sexual orientation.
We've done better in cases of gender identity and expression with using the sex discrimination law, but Indiana, thanks to Mike Pence, does not have an LGBT rights law.
So we turn to the federal law. We turn to the federal law, not that we have the Equality Act and a full direct federal law, but we are looking for the sex discrimination prohibitions to include sexual orientation, and the 7th Circuit may or may not agree that it does.
And you thought that maybe the same-sex marriage thing ended everything, especially in relationship issues and family issues, but it didn't. But we did get a good decision in Arizona from the Court of Appeals there about a legal parent, Suzanne McLaughlin, being the legal parent of a son, and her former same-sex spouse conceived through donor insemination, and that they raised together. But I mean, again, it's not automatic.
Well, it should be automatic.
Of course it should be.
And the court says it is automatic, but people nonetheless go in and challenge this. And the right wing, of course, is asserting that it's not automatic, that there is a separation between legalizing marriage and seeing all the rights that come with it, such as parental rights.
Especially in North Texas.
Yes,
which is where we've been losing some decisions.
But we won this one in Arizona. All right, the Department of Defense has issued a handbook with guidelines for military service by transgender members of the military. You can go to their website at defense.gov to get that handbook.
And as long as we're on the federal government, let's talk about what the Department of the Interior and the Park Service did this week. And you can go to nps.gov, that's the National Park Service.gov, nps.gov, and read this new report, which is called LGBTQ America, a theme study of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer history. And they really are pouring, this is from all over the country, sites and history from all over the country that our federal government.
They commissioned a lot of writers to research various parts of this, and came out with, I don't know, what is it, like 32 chapters of places and history and everything else.
It's all on the website.
I was a little discouraged to be reminded that the sites they have already designated as landmarks or just places of interest or whatever are really all East Coast places, mostly New York, some in D.C. and
a few in the heartland, Chicago and elsewhere.
But no West
Reno.
Coast, no West Coast,
Reno.
no Compton's Cafeteria, no, Harvey Milk
We have more work
camera
to do.
store.
We have so much work to do.
Yeah, but particularly in that way.
All right. We've been telling you about the rentboy.com case. The Department of Homeland Security basically shut down rentboy.com, and they indicted the owner, and he has been convicted. He's taken a plea deal, right?
Yes.
And
He pled guilty to promoting prostitution. Jeffrey Harant, the CEO of Rentboy.
So this safe place where a lot of men who do this kind of work could advertise themselves and find clients, and nobody was harmed. There was no evidence of trafficking or any of this other kind of stuff.
No.
It went on for 18 years, the business, out of business, and it'll make that kind of work more unsafe.
It's like abortion. It drives it underground and makes it less safe.
Right.
Yeah. In Pittsburgh, Lambda Legal Defense has filed suit against the Pine Richland School District. They have instituted a school bathroom policy that specifically forbids trans students from using the bathroom of their choice, not unlike HB2 in North Carolina. So Lambda has filed suit against this. This is a huge war that is going on.
Well, and the war gets violent. Another trans woman was killed, this time in Birmingham, Alabama. A woman named Jazz, 30-year-old transgender woman from North Carolina, was killed in Birmingham, Alabama, I should say, on September 23rd.
Shot dead.
They are questioning a person of interest. Jazz Alton was her sister, Toya, corrected misgendering in the local press. And this is why we didn't know about a lot of these things for many years, because people were misgendered in the press.
The alleged perpetrator is also being accused of another shooting of a trans woman. This one survived, which may be why they've caught the perpetrator.
Yeah.
She was shot, robbed.
At the King's Inn. All right.
That's where Jazz was killed.
More calls on Johns Hopkins leadership to disavow the specious anti-LGBTQ report that was done by some of their folks. And there's been a big outcry about this because it doesn't pass muster.
In religious news, in New York City, the Catholic Archdiocese has announced that they will set up a program to pay victims of sex abuse by priests.
Yeah, this is just their attempt to avoid the law that would extend the statute of limitations on this,
exactly.
where they'd really have to pay through the nose.
And preclude lawsuits from these people, changing the law and specific lawsuits from people.
It's a lie, it's a sham.
It might work. And the InterVarsity Christian Fellowship, Christian Fellowship is threatening their pro-gay staff, not just their gay staff, their pro-gay staff, with firing. This is 1,300 staff at 667 colleges. They are saying they want everyone on their staff who has any pro-gay views to come forward by November 11th so they can be fired.
Well, try expressing a pro-gay view in a Catholic school or an Orthodox school. Not all Orthodox schools, but many, et cetera.
Yeah.
See what happens. All right.
In better news, in New York State, the health department is going to allow Medicaid to cover hormone therapy for trans youth.
This is a big deal. They've already done it for adults, but there was always these misgivings about allowing young people to have this access to the same thing.
But it turns out to be really important because young people who are coming to an understanding of themselves as trans are really quite desperate to avoid puberty. They will go on the street and get drugs if they have to. And allowing them to have the hormones and have this and forestall puberty also allows them to avoid surgery immediately, so that if this is a case of confusion or going through an evolution of deciding, it gives them time to figure it out.
We mourn the loss of Serdina Walker out of Springfield, Massachusetts. We have a picture of her. She became an advocate for anti-bullying legislation after her bullied son committed suicide and died. She was 51 years old. She's been undergoing treatment for breast cancer, which after a decade of remission.
Her son was 11 when he killed himself, Carl.
Yes. But and her work led to the creation of laws, programs, scholarships, and things to combat bullying.
And also made her a guest on Extreme Makeover Home Edition. You may recognize her as having been on that and been given a redone.
One of our heroes.
Yeah, she was a terrific activist and gone far too early at age 51.
In Philadelphia, they're having their annual, we're in Gay History Month and all this kind of stuff, and they had their annual raising of the pride flag by the mayor, Jim Kenney, and there was a big protest there by a group alleging racism in the city's LGBTQ community.
Well, they have something they call the Gayborhood, the neighborhood that has a lot of LGBT people and businesses, and evidently at least one business there was accused of racist behavior. And the protesters felt this was not being addressed sufficiently by the city, and the mayor sort of acted apologetic and said, yes, this is something that needs to be addressed. In fact, they're going to hold hearings on it there.
Good.
All right. And our old friend Bill Donahue took out a
from the Catholic League for Religious and Civil Rights.
Quarter-page ad in the New York Times saying Macy's thought police are trying to let cross-dressers use the ladies' room.
And a guard who tried to stop this was only trying to stop it based on his religious beliefs.
Yeah.
Religious beliefs.
Yeah.
I mean, Ann and I go to the theater a lot. We always see women going into the men's room when the line is too long.
Me
at
last
the women's
week.
room. And hardly anybody bats an eye.
Well, this guy behind me said, hey, it's the men's room. And I said, hey, we're sharing tonight.
Right.
And then the theater personnel came along and said, please share.
What's the difference?
Whatever.
We have to, the show must go on.
Anyway.
And it will go on into international news. Well,
Okay.
Let's talk about Colombia, the country. The Pope's war on gender ideology seems to be gaining traction there. Now, this is a country that had a big referendum on peace with the rebels.
They had a big war for many years with the
decades.
the FARC rebels.
So they finally reached a peace agreement that had to be ratified by the people. The president of the country won the Nobel Prize for just proposing this.
And everybody thought this was going to win big. And just like Brexit in Britain, the vote came out to be a huge surprise because the peace agreement lost.
It was narrow, but here's what happened right before that. The education minister, Gina Paradis, we have a picture of her. She's an out lesbian, and she had a draft teacher's handbook that she'd proposed that included the sentence, one isn't born a man or a woman, but rather learns to be one according to the society and age in which they grew up. That's actually true.
Perfectly understandable to us.
But it's the kind of thing that drives people crazy on the other side.
People's heads blow off.
Not only did they get very upset about that, and we had these fights in New York over curricula and things like that, but she became the head of the Yes campaign on the referendum.
Well, they got rid of her as education minister because there was such an uproar over this handbook. And does she slip quietly away into retirement? No, the idiot president who just won the Peace Prize appoints her to run the Yes campaign on the peace agreement.
But it was the Peace Prize. It wasn't the prize in mathematics or economics or anything.
Well, meaning he doesn't have to be a genius?
You're asking him to be more politic and not pick a controversial lesbian.
I am asking him not to pick someone who has just advanced civil war in the country on gender ideology as the head of the peace
We have to have
vote.
the fight.
Oh, come on. So the original headlines were that the peace agreement lost because the people felt that the rebels had not been sufficiently punished.
Yes.
Not enough jail time, too much welcoming back into society.
Not quite willing to use the methods that they used in South Africa, where they just had truth and reconciliation.
Well, it turns out that they really were upset not just at her, but at the whole progressive attitude of the president and the government on LGBT issues. And it became a referendum on that as much as the rebels.
Profiles and courage. I mean, some people have lost political office because they stood up for us in the past. We act like it never happens, but of course it does. And that's what has to happen sometimes if things are going to change.
Well, and I hope that they will be revisiting this and trying to renegotiate this, but it was just fascinating to find that, in fact, this was so deeply a part of the vote on the peace agreement.
We do have a lot of work to do, including at the United Nations. A group of up to 17 countries led by Belarus, thank you very much, blocked a plan to include the rights of LGBT communities in a new urban strategy plan that was drawn up. This was pushed by Canada, the European Union, United States, and Mexico, where things are also advancing. But they led this behind-the-scenes campaign, and they blocked the language on gays. It was supported by, we might as well name them, Russia, Egypt, Qatar, Indonesia, Pakistan, and the United Arab Emirates. So the document ended up only saying that cities should be friendly for families, without saying what families.
Australia, marriage, still the big issue there. The Labour Party, which is the Progressive Party, but not the ruling party, the Liberal Party, which is not so liberal as
the Labour
ruling
Party, which didn't pass same-sex marriage when they had the chance because Julia Gillard, whatever her name was anti-same-sex marriage.
Well, the Labour Party has succeeded in killing the proposed public plebiscite on marriage equality on the grounds that it's too expensive, unnecessary, and will only get people upset.
These are very divisive things, since we've gone through them in most of our states where we've had to vote on these things and people have been torn apart by them.
So now there are two possibilities. One, because this is a parliamentary system where people who are members of parties are supposed to vote with their party, we could just not deal with marriage equality for years, again, until the Labour Party gets back in power. Or some of the Liberal Party members, like the 3 openly gay members, could defect on this vote with the Labour Party, and Parliament could pass marriage equality.
So it could happen.
Meanwhile, Kylie Minogue and her British actor fiancé have announced they will not marry until same-sex marriage is legal. Thank you, Kylie, and your fiancé.
Another disturbing story from Australia. The Newtown police station in Sydney is being sued because for homophobic bullying of police officers. There were police officers who were forced to take drug tests, and they were the only one, and they all found out about each other, and they were all gay. So they've got a lawsuit going on about this because basically the authorities there were singling them out for their homosexuality. Let's see if they can prove that.
And coming up in Australia, Australia TV is about to broadcast a big documentary on what turn out to be suspected murders of dozens of gay men in the 80s and 90s. This is, it's a documentary called Deep Water, The Real Story. These are men who died falling from cliffs, I'm getting to that, outside Sydney.
By the beach,
yes.
Bondi Beach?
I don't know if that's that beach there, but they were assumed to be suicides for years, and now
there wasn't much investigation.
No, and that was
police.
considered homophobic because it was a gay cruising area. But slowly what has become apparent is that this may have been gangs of guys going out and murdering these men and throwing them off the cliffs.
There is no question in some of the cases, but they are actually trying to. Well, I mean, some of the prosecutors are still, oh no, there's no evidence that they were.
Well,
anything
let's see
but
what
a
they
suicide.
say after this documentary airs.
It is horrifying when you read about these stories. These men could have just been lying there sunning themselves or whatever. They were grabbed by these gangs and they were hurled off a cliff. There were so many indications that there was nothing, it didn't even look like a suicide, but that's what happened. It's just horrifying. These were executions, and some of the perps are still alive.
Also, I'm going to do another bad news story before we get to better news. In Cameroon, the cops there in, I think, the capital, surrounded a gay bar, blocked everyone from leaving, and then picked them off one by one and arrested dozens of gay men in the bar.
Tough place. Now we celebrate the civil union of Federica and Isabel, two middle-aged women there in northern Italy. You got one, but the Pope
Civil union.
Yeah, civil union. I said that, didn't I?
No.
I thought I did, but all right. Well, they happen to be basically ex-nuns.
Maybe you did.
Ex-nuns at this point.
Yes.
And the Holy Father, the Pope, was said by his Deputy Secretary of State, how much sadness on the Pope's face when I read him the news of the two married nuns. And in the tweet, he puts the word nuns in quotation marks. They didn't give their surnames. They fell in love while serving as missionaries in West Africa.
In Mexico, Parliament has now decided it will take up the president's proposal to legalize same-sex marriage nationally by the Parliament. This is a controversial proposal because our people say, leave it alone, the courts are doing it state by state, you're only
And the other side's able
trouble.
to turn a lot more people out in the streets than we are.
Absolutely. Well, it's been true everywhere, I think. Almost. So, but Parliament was going to put this in the freezer and not take it up, but now they've decided they will take it up, so we'll follow that.
Switzerland is going to legalize stepchild adoption for same-sex couples. A petition to force a referendum has failed there due to lack of signatures, unlike in Massachusetts.
Correct. And in Tonga, the LGBT community has asked the government to decriminalize sodomy and cross-dressing.
In Taiwan, an actor named Tien Chu was picked as the best actor in a miniseries or television film, and he used his post-ceremony comments to say why he had rejected a lot of work in the past. He said it was because he refused to support homosexuality. I'll be open about it. I will not support homosexuality because it's going to lead to the end of humanity. That's a nice speech to give.
Whenever anyone says that, I just want to sit them down and say, could we have a logical discussion about this, please?
The current government is moving in a pro-LGBT direction.
Slowly but surely.
They're also risking the wrath of China by saying we will not be
China's going to come along too. Everybody will eventually.
That's what Donald Trump. That's what Donald Trump said about the Speaker of the House. Hey, okay, he'll come around.
And he will. He will if Trump is president.
He is not going to have to, Anne.
Because he won't be the Speaker.
And they won't be in the majority. All right.
No, I think we're describing two different scenarios.
There's an Israeli lawmaker who got pregnant. Did you read about this?
Oh, yes.
Marav Ben-Ari, she, member of parliament, got pregnant. She's single. She says, I'm not the first member of the Knesset to get pregnant, but I am the first single member of the Knesset to get pregnant by a gay friend without getting married.
Well, thank heavens you didn't get married.
And she said the reaction she's getting is overwhelmingly positive.
Not that you couldn't get married.
No.
That's another concept.
No.
That's what you want.
All right.
Whatever.
AIDS news?
Yeah. Well, the big news is that the National Institutes of Health has done something that has been on our agenda for years as a really important step by the federal government. They have designated sexual and gender minorities as a health disparity population for NIH research, which means
it's about time.
Well, we've been saying for decades that LGBT people exhibit higher rates of heart disease.
Health disparities.
Yes, disparities in their health situation. Now, the right wing uses this to say LGBT people are diseased and horrible and therefore you shouldn't be sanctioning them. We say because we are stigmatized, rejected, discriminated against, we suffer health disparities. And the federal government is saying, yes, that is true and we want to study it. And we're going to specifically designate that as an area for study.
I remember when Barney Frank was arguing for gays in the military on Nightline once, and the right-winger said, Well, what about all these statistics about how much you want to commit suicide, you people? He says, what do we want to have these unstable people in the military for? I mean, they were quoting
Yes.
the statistics
Yes.
against us
Yes.
and things like that.
That's
but the
what they
only
do.
way you're going to reduce it is to reduce stigma.
And discrimination.
Well, GMHC is starting to provide rapid hepatitis C testing in their programs. That's a good thing. That'll be available at the GMHC's David Geffen Center for HIV Prevention and Health Education over there on West 29th Street. Check it out. They use an OraQuick rapid test. Only takes 20 minutes.
As I promised last week, I did get to the Bronx this weekend for the Art AIDS America show at the Bronx Arts Museum. It's fascinating. Now, it's been the subject of some controversy because people think there are not enough artists of color represented. They added some people to make up for some of that, but everyone's still not entirely happy. But there are a lot of people a lot of artists of color in the show. But it's a wide range. This was put together by our old friend Jonathan David Katz, who did the Smithsonian show that the Vonarovich Ants video got censored from.
That also went to the Brooklyn Museum.
Yes, and this started in Tacoma and is now in the Bronx, and I may be scheduled for another place or has been another place. It should be seen much more widely. And I took a friend who's an art critic who said, why isn't this in Manhattan? Why isn't this all over the country?
What's wrong with the Bronx? My mother's from the Bronx.
Nothing wrong with the Bronx, and I was happy to be in the Bronx and seeing it. But it's well worth seeing. It's got some really wonderful, moving stuff. I hate to say stuff.
I have looked at it online, and
Yeah.
you can see pictures of the exhibits online.
Art AIDS America is the name of the show, but if you're anywhere near the Bronx, it runs a couple more weeks. Well worth the trip up there to see it. You can get there by subway very easily. It's right on the Grand Concourse at 165th Street. And I was very moved by it. I was moved by seeing a lot of things I recognized and a lot of things I didn't.
What do you take, the D?
I took my car.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Look at a map.
All right.
But it was well worth the trip. This is one of the handouts that was there. If he were alive today, he'd still be living with AIDS, and then that gets bigger and bigger and bigger. That's just one little handout, but there's some really moving and wonderful art in it, including some Vonarovich art. I was glad I went.
Well, as long as we're on art, we should talk about gay Gotham art and underground culture in New York, which is in Manhattan.
Okay.
Which is at the, well, barely. It's at the Museum of the City of New York on 103rd Street and 5th Avenue. But go up there, and if you go up there, of course,
You don't really want to say barely.
Go across the street, go across the street to the Conservatory Garden in Central Park, which is one of the most wonderful places on earth.
There's your first picture.
That's a picture by Cecil Beaton of Andy Warhol and Candy Darling. This exhibit is organized around the 20th century and 10 art figures, and I'll just read their names because I wasn't even familiar with all of them. Some of them, of course: Leonard Bernstein, Mercedes Acosta, Harmony Hammond, lesbian artist; Bill T. Jones, the gay choreographer; Lincoln Kirstein, Greer Langton, George Platt Lyons, Robert Mapplethorpe, and Richard Bruce Nugent, and Andy Warhol. Richard Bruce Nugent being from the Harlem Renaissance. But they also have artifacts like Dyke magazine and posters like that. And then the last picture we have, they have pictures.
They showed it already, but maybe they can show it
the
again.
cruising picture. Yeah, they had pictures of,
there it is.
because it covers social history as well. That's cruising in Bryant Park. It looks like the 60s, doesn't it? Maybe the 70s.
Could be anything.
Could be any. It's timeless.
Yes.
But anyway, it has some very interesting stuff. A good diverse mix. I doubt the show's going to be controversial at all, even though it's 2 big rooms in the Museum of the City of New York.
Well, the thing
there are no parental warnings up, although there's some nudity.
The controversy I wanted to provoke is it too celebrity-driven as opposed to real people-driven?
Some of the real people. They have to be at least artists, and some real people are artists, of course.
Well, if you're going to call a show Gay Gotham, I expect it to be about the people of New York.
It's about art an underground culture in New York.
Okay.
That's the subtitle of the thing.
Okay.
So, okay. What
Worth
else?
seeing, worth a trip?
Yes, yes. It's impressive to see so much space devoted to these things, and there's something for everybody.
Okay.
All right.
Something you may not have heard of because I haven't seen a lot of publicity on it, but it's a new TV series that starts this Sunday on the USA Network called Eyewitness. It is based on a Norwegian series. It's the story of two boys who are having a secret romance, and they witness a murder. So then it becomes all about their secret relationship and what they've seen. And the Norwegian series was very, very popular. And this is made by the same person who made the Jennifer Lopez NBC series Shades of Blue, the cop show, which was very provocative and I thought quite interesting. And so Eyewitness Sunday night on the USA Network is maybe something to take a look at.
All right. Okay. I guess and also speaking of television, if you can stream BBC Three, which is not on the tube anymore, it's just streaming, there's a new Doctor Who spinoff called Class that has introduced a gay character.
And speaking of streaming, the third season of Transparent is now on Amazon. And given the number of awards that show has won, I'm actually surprised it hasn't crossed over to network television or at least major cable network.
It's a brave new world, except when you go to Broadway these days.
Wouldn't you, I mean, why wouldn't a show like that be on HBO or Showtime by now?
You're asking the wrong guy.
Okay, Andy, move on to Broadway.
Well, I have just 3 shows to briefly review. We have pictures of them. I saw Holiday Inn. It's a stage version of the Bing Crosby, Fred Astaire movie from the 40s, I guess it was, with lots of other Irving Berlin songs. It's an old-fashioned romantic musical, and I'd call it an antidote to the filth that we've been covering ourselves with during the campaign this year.
No bad words in Holiday Inn?
No bad words.
Okay.
And then you and I went to see The Encounter, which is Simon McBurney in a one-man show about a photographer lost in the Amazon in the 1960s. Now, let me just say this about this show.
If only there had been an intermission I could leave.
If you invite Simon over for Thanksgiving dinner, don't ask him to tell a story, or he will not shut up for the next 2 hours. Now, I mean, this has gotten nice reviews from the Times and many other places for theatrical innovation, and there are a few interesting things in the story, but it shouldn't have taken 2 hours to tell this story.
No, and it should have had projections on the theater instead of just a bare stage.
I like Simon McBurney.
Yeah.
He does a lot of good work as a director and as an actor. And then I saw something called Men of Tortuga at the Living Theater. It's a little bit Pinter, a little bit Mamet, and a little bit too long for a black comedy, which also doesn't have enough ideas. But that was my friend Curzon Dobell in there, and he's very good.
I want to just alert you to a movie from, I think, 2015 that's running on Cinemax these days that I happen to watch, Legend, which is the latest version of the story of the Krays, the London twin brothers.
Thugs!
Yes, they were violent criminals.
Ooh.
But this is a very romantic version.
One of them was a gay.
Exactly.
But
a psychopath.
And even though they're twins, they're not both gay.
But they're both played by the same guy,
because
Tom
they
Hardy.
were identical twins, and not all identical twins.
They don't
both.
look identical in the movie. They have made that. They even look different heights.
They probably had their faces rearranged quite a few times in some of the fights that they got into.
But
I want to see
they're played by
it.
the same person.
Well, they could use different makeup.
Yeah. Well, I liked the movie a lot. I thought it was very charming. And it's all about the 60s in London, and they have, I don't know if you remember, that you don't, but the singer Duffy, who had a big hit a few years ago.
I don't remember what I had for breakfast.
She appears as the singer in all their cafes. They owned a lot of cabaret nightclubs. By the way, they were big Frank Sinatra fans and had this sort of romance to them. Or Reggie, the
You are
straight one did.
romanticizing violence?
I am enjoying this movie, Legend.
I'm looking forward to seeing it.
And it has very straightforward, matter-of-fact gay stuff from the gay brother that I thought was very interesting.
So the New Fest is coming up next week. This is the LGBTQ Film Festival in New York, and there are film festivals like this all over the country now.
Yep, newfest.org for tickets and information about movies. The opening night is a movie called The Pass, starring Russell Tovey. You've seen the stage version.
Based on a play about a sort of a David Beckham-like character who is homosexual, but is sort of dealing with the whole issue of whether to be out or not.
It's locker room talk.
It is. This thing is, to a great extent. He has an out gay former player that he remonstrates with. He has a girlfriend or an ex-wife. It's very, very good.
The closing night movie is called Love Song, starring Jenna Malone and Riley Keough. Now, I don't know if you know the name Riley Keough, but she is Elvis Presley's granddaughter.
Oh.
And this
She must be rich.
Well, she's quite. They all have the same eyes. Those Elvis bedroom eyes. She and her mother, and Lisa Marie. Lisa Marie is her mother. So this is a young lesbian romance, and that's the closing picture. Also on opening night, they're giving an award to Titus Burgess.
Oh. Broadway star.
Yes, who was asked Deborah Messing to present the award, which she will do. And somewhere in the middle of the festival, one of the big moments is going to be screening this movie, Different from the Others, from 1919.
It was shown on PBS years ago.
Silent movie. It's now been restored for theatrical showing. It was made by Magnus Hirschfeld.
One of the gay lovers was Conrad Veidt, who was Colonel Strasse in Casablanca.
So there are, I think, 100 movies in this festival. A lot of them are shorts in shorts programs. The festival only runs October 20th through 25th, but it is just chock full of wonderful opportunities. So newfest.org for that.
And look out for the LGBT festivals in your part of the world.
And a couple of other movies opening next week. King Cobra, the James Franco, Christian Slater movie about the porn filmmakers in Pennsylvania, one of whom murders the other. And it's a little gruesome. I wasn't thrilled with that. But Moonlight is the
coming-of-age gay story in the South of an African-American kid.
And given the flop of Birth of a Nation, Moonlight may actually turn out to be the big hit this season. And congratulations to Cheyenne Jackson and Jason Landau and their new twins. And Warren Beatty gives an interview to Vanity Fair, at the end of which he talks about his trans son, a revolutionary, a genius, and my hero, as are all my children.
You've left me no time to tell you how many straight men enjoy watching same-sex porn. You'll have to wait for that.
Next week. See you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.